Our first topic of discuss now. Nigeria's aviation industry has been rocked by jet fuel price protests by airlines, which has seen the House of Representatives intervene, asking the NNPC to sell aviation fuel to marketers at 480 naira per litre until August. It will be recalled that on the 6th of May, domestic airlines operators under the aegis of Airline Operators of Nigeria announced plans to shut down operations with effect from Monday, 9th of May 2022, saying that the rising cost of aviation fuel from 190 naira per litre to 700 naira per litre is affecting their operational cost. The planned shutdown was, however, cancelled following appeals by the federal government and other stakeholders in the aviation space. In a swift reaction, the major marketers, that's the major oil marketers of Nigeria, denied reports that aviation fuel was being sold at about 700 naira per litre in some parts of the country, by claiming the airline operators are attempting to, of course, pressurize government to control the price of aviation turbine kerosene, also known as aviation fuel, by fiat. Well, let's understand this more. We've been on this for some time, but today I'm being joined by the chairman of the Downstream Petroleum Group of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Tunji Oyebanji, who is also the MD CEO of Double One PLC, former Mobile Oil Nigeria PLC. Thank you for your time, Mr. Oyebanji. It's good to have you on the program.
Good afternoon, Tolu. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Yes, let me start this way. There is an allegation that in some places by the airline operators of Nigeria that they are buying jet A fuel for as much as 700 naira. And on the other hand, there is a press release that says it shouldn't be sold for more than between 500 and 550 naira. So what is the true picture of things at the moment, sir?
Okay, to the best of my knowledge, even that instance where they talked about jet oil being sold for 700, it looks like there was an offer to an airline in one location in Maiduguri, to the best of my knowledge. Prices in Lagos have hovered around, I think, between 540, 550 to a maximum of about 570. So I don't know how appropriate it is to take that particular single incident in Maiduguri, which was an offer, and use that as a basis to say this is the price at which the product is being sold. However, having said that, at the end of the day, you need to look at the fundamentals. You know, how much is the product costing really? Because one of the things I heard the airlines saying is that, you know, according to their own information, or based on the information that they know, prices should not be more than, I think somebody said, about 400 naira. And I certainly wish them all the luck in the world if they are able to source products at that price. Why do I say that? Even from NNPC, I think the latest pro forma invoices that we have seen comes in at around 460, 461 naira. By the time you add some of the additional charges that we have to pay, transportation, and so on and so forth, if you add another 20 naira, it takes you to about 480. So even when we talk about selling at 480, we're actually selling probably at a loss and at best at break-even price. Now, when you look at importation and based on the international prices, today you'll probably be landing jets at about $1.07 per liter in Nigeria. And all you need to do is multiply that by an exchange rate of 5.85. So it will give you something in the region of 580. And then when you add those additional charges that I spoke about another 20 naira, you're certainly looking at closer to 600. So like the airlines did say, this thing is transparent. It's not hidden. These prices are there for everybody to check. I think when the moment Executive Secretary spoke a couple of days ago. He gave you the idea of the prices in neighboring countries. And also, just a final comment on this. I was reading something in CNN today which talked about airline passengers in the United States complaining about higher ticket prices. And how are those higher ticket prices coming about? Because of the higher fuel costs. So it's a global phenomenon. Nigeria is not an exception. We sympathize with the airlines, of course. We sympathize with people having to buy tickets, but that is the reality of the situation today.
Reality of the situation. There was an intervention earlier by the NNPC to bridge this gap, and another intervention now for about 6 million liters of Jet A1 fuel. How long do you think government or NNPC will continue to do this? We'll still have PMS issues on the other side.
Tolu, personally, I've always said, you see, when you are trying to solve a problem that is fundamentally economic, and you're trying to find political solutions to it, it's never sustainable. It can't be, because something has to give somewhere. If the realistic price of a commodity is A, and you want to insist on selling it at A minus whatever figure, at the end of the day, somebody has to bear that difference. So interventions saying that this product should be sold at 480, first and foremost, the players who are selling at that price are actually selling at a loss, and definitely you know that that is not going to be sustainable. So if NNPC wants to intervene and keep prices at that level, the only thing is that they will have to absorb the difference, and that is adding to the subsidy burden of the country. The alternative, of course, is that the airlines themselves take up import licenses and let them import themselves. They say the grass is always greener on the other side. So maybe if they import themselves, they will be able to bring it in at 300 naira. So we'll watch and see what they can do in that regard.
Was going that route. I wanted to ask you that at the moment, how attractive is it for marketers to bring in this product? Not only Jet A fuel, we know what is happening with diesel. It's a two-in-one question. Maybe that is why Nigerians are also scared of deregulation. I asked the Executive Secretary of MoMA this same question. Diesel is selling for about 800 naira per litre, in some cases 700 naira per litre, 800 naira. And so I think this fear is what everyone believes, that if we allow market forces take charge of the price of PMS, what might happen, being sincerely speaking, what would happen to us? We'll buy this a litre of PMS for close to 500 naira.
Okay, Tolu, let me start by saying we sell crude oil as a nation. Today, crude is probably hovering a little above $100 per barrel. I've never heard Nigerians saying that when crude is $100 and something per barrel in international market, that we are very considerate people and therefore we should sell our own crude at $40 per barrel. We take advantage of what happens in the international market. Unfortunately, that's how markets are. Sometimes they are to your advantage, as it is to us on the crude side. But conversely, if you have to import refined products, then the price too will have to reflect what is happening in the international market. So today you find that all the countries around us are selling product at a much higher level than we are. And we are spending 4 trillion naira this year, for instance, to bridge that gap. And as you all know, some of that product is actually finding its way across the border. So the challenge really is a realization that this is an economic problem. It's not something that is palatable. The situation has been exacerbated by the crisis in Ukraine and Russia. A lot of the products that we import come from that axis. And therefore, because of the crisis, the prices have gone up. And that inflation is being reflected across the world. It's not only in Nigeria. So, and at some point, government cannot continue to sustain it and make up for that difference. Now, we're all hoping that sooner than later, Dangote refinery will come on stream, so more product will be available locally. But at the end of the day, the product that is going to be refined from that refinery is based on the international price of crude. So you may be able to save some money on the transportation element, but it's not as if suddenly, because it's being manufactured locally, that the price is now going to be 1/4 of what it is presently. So it's the reality of how economic forces work. We all know that. The other point I think I should quickly make is that in terms of the price at the pump or the price into plane, for instance, some other forces also determine what happens. For international airlines, for instance, they all have long-term contracts with their suppliers. So for that, they guarantee volumes to their suppliers, maybe for a period of 2 to 3 years. They agree on a price, they agree on credit terms, and because of that, the suppliers make sure they have product available to them at a particular price. Sometimes the price moves against the supplier and they end up having to take a loss. And sometimes the price moves to the advantage of the customer, which is the airline, and they take the advantage. So, but because there's a long-term contract, they kind of work out a middle range where they operate. But local airlines don't do that. First, they owe tremendous amounts of money to the suppliers. And apart from that, they want to buy spot. What does that mean? They want to go from company A to company B to say, how much is your own price today? Nobody is going to keep stock at a particular price for a customer. You do not know whether that person will come to you tomorrow. So it is people who have long-term contracts with you that you make such allowances for and probably give your best prices to. So for me, the solutions are simple. Either local airlines get into such long-term contracts with suppliers, or NNPC brings in product and sells to them below the landing cost, which implies a subsidy, or the airlines themselves decide to take it upon themselves to import directly.
I totally agree with you. Definitely, once there's, is that I call it subsidy or price differentials when you don't want to use the word, but subsidy, that's what it is. But I want to ask you, because your kind of business, you deal mostly with margins, and that's what it's been before now. Logistics costs, transportation, operational costs, and all of that. With all of this development, how has business been? Can you tell us how it's been really at this time?
For fuels business, the story is very, very terrible. Like I said, let's just use the jet example. If there's been intervention that is forcing people to sell at 480 naira, then you know that they're actually taking a loss. Because apart from the cost of the product, there are various charges that are mandatory. When a vessel comes to the jetty at Apapa, you have to move it through pipeline into your facility. You pay for the jetty. You have storage and handling fees for operating your terminal. And then you have to transport in highly specialized tanks, because it's Jet A1 and a lot of filtration has to go into the process. You have to pay fan charges. And then you have to deliver it into the plane. So there are costs that you have to bear all along the value chain that you can't run away from. Today, if I wanted to bring in a cargo of 10,000 metric tons of Jet A1, it probably cost me in the region of 6.1, 6.2 billion naira. I have to go to the bank to finance that, and we all know what interest rates are. So it's been a very, very tough period on the fuel side of the business. And to be honest, if companies that depend solely on fuels definitely are just managing to survive. One thing people don't know, you see, when things are tough like this and prices are high, people forget that there are periods when these prices move against companies and they are stuck with huge inventories of very expensive material. And when that happens, they take a big hit. And that is why some years back, prices moved particularly against us, particularly in the diesel area. And because of that, many companies went out of business. Amcon is selling so many depots today simply because people lost a lot of money. So it's not a bed of roses at all. But unfortunately, because the price, particularly of PMS, is fixed presently, there's nothing we can do. So we continue to hang in there, hoping that eventually, when the regulation comes, a better climate will be created that will ensure that we can operate in a better condition.
Great stuff. Now, finally, I'll let you go. Yes, this Russia and Ukraine crisis is impacting on the price of crude, and we see what's playing out in the market, and even the COVID-19 resurfacing in China. There's a slowdown in activities in that space too. What is your outlook for the oil market and, of course, Nigeria? What do you think would happen? What's the impact of this on our country? Moving on.
Well, I think post-COVID, when economies started to open up, demand started to rise, and that really was what drove the initial rise in crude price. And at the same time, managing the quota by OPEC helped to keep the prices constantly above the 100 level mark. And then, just as things were beginning to stabilize around some kind of equilibrium level, you started to, the whole Ukraine-Russia crisis started. And again, this started putting significant pressure on crude oil prices and, by extension, refined product prices. That crisis is still with us. There's no immediate sign of it's being abated. So I think the likelihood is that pressure will continue to bear on crude oil prices. Therefore, I do not see those prices coming down significantly in the short term, which means the prices of PMS, diesel, jet fuel, all of these will tend to remain high for the foreseeable future. So unless something happens drastically that will result in a reduction in demand, it's going to be tough. And what you find is that when products are generally in short supply, what we call the premium that you have to pay gets higher. And that has been one of the factors that has been affecting Jet A1. Premiums that were probably at about $5, $10 per barrel are probably now averaging around $40 per barrel, simply because there's not enough product to go round. And these are the things that have been driving the price. So in terms of outlook, I think crude oil prices are not going to go down drastically in the near future.
I must thank you so much for your time. I've been speaking to Mr. Tunji Oyebanji, who's the chairman of the Downstream Petroleum Group of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and of course, MD CEO of Double One PLC, former Mobile Oil Nigeria PLC. Thank you so much. Do enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much, Tolu.